What we're trying to do here is talk about zero trust. How to enable it. We've been talking about zero trust for years, and you all know what it is, but you don't actually know what to do to turn it on. I mean, people say, yeah, you need to actually validate somebody as they're coming in. Well, what does that mean? How do you actually do it? Now, I'm not going to stand here, and say, this is what you click on in Entra ID conditional access to turn on something. I'm going to go much more basic than that. I'm going to do the foundations so that we've got it all nice and simple. We know that we need to verify explicitly. Hi, Andy. You got your passport? Can I check it? Can I check it again? Can I check it again? Can I check? Okay, that's not going to work. We need to use this principle of least privilege. If someone doesn't have admin access to something, they can't break it. So don't give them admin access. Let's control it. Assume breach. Okay, this is a tough one. What we really mean is, if you know you've been breached, make sure your network is turned off. Make sure you're not having meetings in Teams to talk about the breach that's going on, because you know who's in that team meeting with you, don't you? Yeah, so be aware of things like that. And the way we do this, the way you decide where your pendulum is going, do I trust? Do I not trust? Well, the signals. We get a signal from your device. It tells us, I'm managed, I'm monitored, I'm compliant, I haven't been fiddled with, please let me in. And you go, okay, that's fine, but where are you? Oh, I'm on a VPN and I'm somewhere in deepest, darkest Africa. You're not supposed to be. You're supposed to be in Croydon. Oh, okay. Well, those signals allow us to make decisions. Based on those decisions, we then do something. You're in deepest, darkest Croydon. Go away. We don't have people working in Croydon. Why would we? So, based on all of that, we have a number of controls that we can talk about. And this is where we start talking about the 7 steps. Identity. Identity is the foundation. If you know who somebody is, you know what they should be able to do. We have been saying this as Kocho, Third Space, Oxford Computer Group, TIG, MMR, Net Consult, and Moblicity for longer than I've been working here. So that's quite a long time. So identity is key. What about passwords? How many people's auditors still say, please expire your passwords every 90 days? Why, please? Devices. Andy's talked to us about mobiles. Yeah, we need to be aware of that. Did you know you can access Azure Active Directory and Exchange using a Nintendo DS? How do you manage that then? Also, you can do it through an Xbox, which is weird. Networks. We still have them, so we need to be aware of how we use that. Well, I'm not going to read the screen because that would be a bit boring, wouldn't it? Managing identity. We've been talking about provisioning identity for 20 years. We know what we should be doing. We know about the joiners, movers, leavers process. Just show of hands. Who's got their joiners process fixed? Okay. Anybody got the movers process fixed? Anybody got the leavers process fixed? Okay. Sales, there's your contact. Off you go. You've got to get this right. Joiners, movers, and leavers. Most importantly, the leavers. What you don't want is somebody who left the company 6 years ago still having a mobile phone and a valid account and still using it, and you're still paying for the bill? That's really wrong. So we need to work that out. Birthrights. What does everybody have access to? Well, Office 365, we give them an email address, SharePoint, OneDrive for Business. Great, okay. What else do they all have access to? Oh, expenses, that would be a good one. So provision them. More importantly, when they leave, turn it off. You can just imagine somebody being on stage with a big mask and everybody shouting, take it, oh, sorry, slight digression there. But yeah, turn it off, keep it clean, make sure things are good. Potentially look at how you're doing that with Entra ID, P2, the governance, a whole area that's worth looking at. And monitor your identities. How many people here have still got an on-premises Active Directory? Yeah, there's loads of you. Are you monitoring it? Do you know that the identities in there are actually not being used in Kerberos sideswipes? That people aren't using honey tickets, golden tickets, pass the ticket, Kerberos passing? I mean, there's so many different attacks that you should be monitoring for. And if you've got Azure AD P2, Entra ID P2, you're licensed for this. So please, turn it on. Passwords. I can't believe I'm still talking about passwords. This afternoon, if you can, go and see the Yubico pitch on how to get rid of passwords. It's really good. It's remarkably simple to do, but it makes things much more secure. And we all know that if somebody changes their password, it becomes easier for the attacker, not more difficult. So why are we expiring passwords? And yes, it's because our auditors tell us that we have to. Can we bring the auditors up to date? Point them at the NCSC websites? Point them at the NIST website? Point them at Cyber Essentials Plus? Because they all say don't change passwords. Point them at PCI DSS 4. It also says don't change passwords. So get them to give us some proof as to why we should do it now. Oh, here you go. Can you do your switch to passwordless? I don't use my password on my mobile phone. I don't use my password on my Windows device, except when I'm signing in as an admin, because that is a separate account, and therefore I can't use passwordless on it. So always worth looking at. Oh, he's talking fast is not good. Device join. Let's come on to devices separately. Oh, look, here we are. You need to know what the configuration of your device is. Is your device open? Can somebody sign in as root, admin, local administrator, administrator, or some other account? If it's a Mac, the answer is probably yes, because the first thing that you do when you set up a Mac is you set up your own account before you've even got near the network. And that's an admin. So probably on a Mac, you're already in a bad state. That config needs to be controlled and managed. As Andy was saying, Intune, System Center Config Manager, or something else that's actually controlling that and putting a signal there that allows us to say, that device is bad. And because it's bad, we're not letting it in. Is it compliant? And what do we mean by compliant? And by the way, if you're not happy to hand out what your compliance is, federation's never going to work for you. Because if I federate with BT as Kocho, I'd like BT to let me in on my device, which is compliant to Kocho. BT aren't going to do that unless I can tell them what compliance means to us. And that's part of your due diligence. So if you're not happy to tell somebody what compliance means to you, federation's going to be a problem. Your join state is important. Anybody see what's missing from that? Nope. Does it say hybrid? No. Azure AD or AD? Not hybrid. Please, get rid of hybrid. Hybrid is the spawn of the devil. Friends do not let friends do hybrid join. Why? Because it's difficult to manage. You can't use autopilot properly in a hybrid environment, which means you can't build devices remotely. And that's just wrong. So please, think about what you're doing when you're building new devices. You can still get to your AD, even on an Azure-only join, an Entra ID join, because Cloud Kerberos Trust works. And with the new stuff coming with SSE, actually, I'm not even bothered about it just being Kerberos. I can now get access to every single protocol and control that access. I'm talking about that this afternoon. Your network. If it was a physical network in your office, you would segment it. You'd have first floor, second floor, third floor, finance. In the days when we used to have treasury, we'd have treasury. And those devices would not mix. You couldn't go from a treasury machine to a file server in the main line. And the reverse didn't work. We should still be doing that. If you lose a network, you don't want to lose everything. So let's tighten it up. Stop this cross-network access. Make sure your segmentation is there so that we know if there is a breach, yeah, it's only that bit we're going to lose. And then monitor your servers to see if people are getting to those and using them as stepping stones. That brings us back to identity. When we talk about applications, 2 minutes, okay. When we talk about applications, who should have access to what application? And what access should they have? Does everybody need to be an admin on Salesforce? Really, no. And think about the licensing cost of admin for everyone. Really not the way to do it. Can you make this, in a SaaS application, part of privilege management? Somebody joins a group, that group has privilege inside Salesforce, but you manage the group on a daily basis. That gives them access when they need it, how they need it, and they only use the single account. It's the only time I recommend admin and user having the same account. The rest of the time we should keep it separate. And manage that privilege. If somebody hasn't used their admin privileges for 90 days, why do they have it? What's the point? What are they getting out of it other than, I've got power? And that's really not a good place to be. So validate the access. Do the attestation, whether it's group memberships or direct. Still do the attestation. Make sure it's good. Oh, yes. Roles. If you can, understand them. If you can. Do not, I did this with BT 20 years ago, do not start with, what does the guy on the street do? Well, he installs a pole, he has a ladder, he has a van, he can dig a hole, he can... Honestly, we went through that, we ended up with 20,000 roles and we'd only got to the second layer. It didn't work. Do it the other way around. What does everybody have? Everybody has access to Office 365, probably. What else do they have? Do the top levels. 80% of your stuff can probably be done in 3 layers of roles. That's manageable. Implement it, get it running. Those roles drive everything else. It's well worth doing. And governance is the way to manage it, whether that's governance through Entra ID governance, or if you've got much more complicated stuff, go talk to Savient, and they will make sure that your governance is perfect and works really, really well. Then put automation in. Oh, look, this laptop that we've got signed in here has been attacked. I can see Mimikatz has been installed on it and it's run, and the user has now signed into a second device. Well, okay, let's take them both off the network. Automate it. Make sure your XDR is in such a state that actually all you have to do is walk up to the device later, turn it off, turn it back on again, and it's clean. That automation starts to become really key, particularly when you've got a password breach, which you should know about because, of course, you all go to Have I Been Pawned and put in all of your IDs every day just to make sure that they're... You don't do that? No? Oh, okay. Actually, Microsoft will do it for you and actually raise the alert on your account that's been breached. So these are the things that are easy to do, but you need to get in there. You need to get that action moving. So removing the device, making sure everything's working. And by the way, let's also see, oh, that Gavy Guest bloke, has he got a new laptop? Because I've not seen this device before. That's a bit weird. Oh, hang on, he's got another device as well, and another device, and another device. Now, apart from the fact that that is what my desk looks like, that's unusual behavior. So maybe I've been breached, in which case let's take some action against it. End user behavioral analytics, or a UBA, actually makes sense. And monitor what's going on. I work with a client who has the biggest Sentinel deployment I've ever seen. Their security team love it because they can see exactly what's going on. They do not make it available to the team triaging calls. So the team triaging calls don't know why this user can't access the system. So if you're going to monitor it, make sure the monitor is available to the people who need it, please. Run your analytics. Keep the logs for as long as you need them. That might be 30 days. In some legal terms, that could be 25 years. And if you're working for the UK government, it's 300 years. They're going to run out of disk space soon. So, Siemens, we'll talk about that. So, to recap, the 7 things you need to consider, and you need to think about this while you're having your slightly shortened lunch. Identity is your key. First thing to do. Go to passwordless if you can, for as many users as you can. Get your devices into a controlled and managed state so that you will know what's going on with them. Segregate your network. Keep your guests away from your users. Keep each floor separate. Keep each department potentially separate so that things can't spread. Make sure that people have the right access to the right applications when they need it, and when they don't need it, they don't have access. Sounds simple? Not easy to do, but worthwhile. Roles and access controls, yeah, we know they're complex, but start looking at it. And finally, automation.